Welcome, everyone. This is Robin Duncan. This is Ego's Playbook online course with the Answered Prayer Roadmap. Today, our topic is Table Runner, and I will explain much more about that. Let's start with a little prayer to get centered and to open our mind to hear whatever it is we need to hear and to share whatever we need to share. Dear God, we join together such a wonderful group here that is very dedicated to awakening, to remembering our true identity, exactly as you created us, not the story we have made, which I call shabby self, shabby Robin, shabby Steve, whatever our name is, but we created the shabby version, and this is not what you have made. Therefore, we are trying to remember who we truly are in the midst of all of this, even though our illusions seem so real, so challenging to get through, to get around, to navigate. So, dear God, thank you for your guidance. We welcome your blessings. We welcome your love. We welcome the memory of all that is real and true and rightfully ours. May your will be done. Amen. I'm excited to share this topic with you because as I was progressing in my own spiritual journey, I started to feel a little bit guilty, I would say. Guilty because things were starting to work for me that hadn't worked before. And that was really great, except I still had a lot of people around me that things were not working well for. You know, it's almost like if you were in a bus accident with a bunch of people and you walk away fine, it's kind of like survivor's guilt, you know, and everybody else has got aches and pains. And is it okay for things to go okay for me? Do I need to wait? And I know even in my family life and siblings, certain siblings, that I kept waiting for them to join me in this journey. And one particular sibling just wasn't having it, wasn't joining me. And I could feel that I was holding back. And I was not only holding back there, but I was holding back in my life, because when good things would happen, it's almost like I would want to keep it a secret or not talk about it, because I didn't want people to feel bad that something good was happening for me. And I noticed this within myself, and it kind of troubled me. And I was asking God at a deeper level, how come it's okay for me to have things when other people don't have things? You know what I'm saying? That you can feel weird about it. Like, why is it okay for me? I mean, I didn't do anything special. I'm not, you know, super smart or super gifted, or like, I'm just average Joe, really, you know, and why would it be okay for me to have a much happier life? And as my higher consciousness answers me, which it so typically does, is when I'm waking up in the morning, I get an answer or I get a statement. And as I'm waking up, I hear the statement. I don't know what it means because my conscious mind isn't awake yet. And it takes a little bit to wake up, think about the statement, and realize, that's the answer to my question that I had, you know? So all of a sudden I woke up one morning with this statement. And a lot of times he'll use my name, and you know, it's not you thinking, because you don't call yourself by your own name, right? So that's a dead giveaway right there. So he says, Robin, the reason you can have everything when other people don't is because they already have it. And it took me a while to just think about what was said. What he so often does is gives me a little download, almost like a picture or a vision to go with the statement, so that I get what he said. And what I was shown was God's table of abundance, just this big table of abundance. And this table of abundance has everything available. It's got love, it's got abundance, it's got every single thing we could want, need, or desire. And it's just piled high. And he showed me that we are all seated around this table, everybody in the world, all of God's children. It's our table, it's God's table, and we are welcome to it. And he said, here's what's happening. He said, you are being a table runner. And he showed me, just without even asking, just showed me what he meant. Every once in a while this happens. Don't think it's every day, but sometimes when I have a really deep question, he gives me a very thorough answer. He says, it's like this. Here's that table of abundance. And he says, you are seeing yourself, let's say 20 feet back from that table. You're close to it. You know that you can run up to that table and you can take little things that you might need. You're feeling a little weird about it, a little guilty about that. And more, you're letting yourself benefit from this table. He said, but what you're doing is you're seeing your loved ones, your clients, your friends, everybody, you're seeing them back further than you. Let's say they're 50 feet back. And he goes, and what you're doing is you're being a table runner. And so whatever it is you think they need, you're running up to the table, you're taking it from the table, and then you're running it back to your loved ones so that they can participate in the table. And he said, what's happening here is it's exhausting you and it's an illusion. And he said, what you must do, because I was asking him, what do I do about that? I mean, you're right. I do that. Correct. And he said, what you have to do is claim your seat at the table, and you must see everyone in their seat at the table. He said, just imagine it, and then I can show it to you. But I cannot show it to you until you see them seated next to you, very happy, very fulfilled, very content. So I just felt the weight of my world fall off my shoulders, because it felt like I was carrying the suffering of the world, and I was trying to solve that by running back and forth, because in my heart, I do know God. I've never questioned that in a really long time. And then there's some people that don't know, never knew, or, like it seems like it. And I'm trying to fill that gap. And sometimes it can be exhausting, because some people say they want to know, but they don't really want to know. And you just get caught in the middle. And he was just showing me that I was being a table runner and that this was impacting my experience. So now that I'm allowing myself to start to come towards that table, the problem was I was still seeing those other people, let's say 50 feet back. And now the gap is widening. So I thought, well, this is really something, because I don't know what it's like to see everyone at the table. And he said, well, just imagine it. He said, think of the richest person in the world. I don't know who that is. Pick someone that that is very, very wealthy, let's say in the public eye. And let's say you're sitting at God's table and they are sitting next to you. And let's say they're crying and they're sad and they're so worried that they are running out of money, that they're going to lose something, that things aren't going well. And he said, just imagine they're sitting next to you at this table. You can see all of God's abundance at this table, and they're rich. They have all the abundance they could ever want or need, right? And they're sitting right next to you. He says, if they are distraught because they believe they're running out, or that, there's lack or scarcity, he said, you wouldn't worry for them. He goes, what would you do? What would you do? Here's this person, they're as rich as can be, sitting right there at the table with you, but they're very distraught, thinking that lack is real and that they're running out. And I said, well, I would just remind them of who they are. And he said, exactly. You'd remind them of who they are. You wouldn't worry for them. You wouldn't be scared for them. You would just remind them of who they are. And you would also know yourself who they are. So the fear would not be there. But when the fear is there, let's say you have a loved one that has some kind of physical challenge or a mental challenge or a financial challenge or a relationship challenge. There's so many in our world. We do worry for them, and we worry for ourselves as well. So number one, he wants us to claim your seat at the table, which means allow good things into your life. Don't shut them down. Don't push them away. Try to allow good things to come to you. Sometimes we just feel like, oh, not me, I'm fine. How about that other person? But he says, no, claim those good things. Take your seat at God's table. Be excited, laugh, enjoy, participate. Know that it is your table. And we must see every other person at that table with us. And I started applying this in my client sessions and when I would talk with people, and it was really wonderful. It changed my perspective. It helped me to understand different lesson titles, like I see all things as I would have them be. I thought I knew what it meant, but he's saying, I need you to choose to see all things as you would have them be, meaning perfect. Once you choose to see everyone as perfect in their place, enjoying that abundance, then the Holy Spirit can bring that back to your mind. It was really a big difference. And I would say to this day, and this was a long, long time ago, but to this day, I still pray that way. You know, if someone calls me and says, I'm going in for surgery tomorrow, and can you please pray for me? And I'll say, sure. And I might do a quick prayer with them. Again, I do the ASC, which is acknowledge the problem, ask for help, surrender the problem, choose again. We choose to see this working out beautifully, everyone playing their roles perfectly. And thank you, God, in advance for the most wonderful outcome. Amen. Prayer can be so simple. But when I'm praying for them myself, what I do is I don't have a gap in my mind. I don't see them as, here's the person 50 feet back that's going into surgery, trying to make their way to the table where they will now be free after the surgery. I actually put them in that chair next to me, basically. And I choose to see them as God created them. Eternal spirit, whole, perfect, happy, blessed, showered in love. Couldn't be more content or more fulfilled. This is how, if you ask me to pray for you, if I do it publicly, I might use words that I think the group can understand more clearly. But for myself, when I pray privately, I go straight to that table. It's not as much of a table anymore as just a position in my mind where I am claiming the truth of you, with you, for you, about you, and for myself. Always include yourself. Take your seat and claim their seat. Let's say you have a loved one that has a physical condition and they're really troubled by it. And you know, it would be very tempting to spend every day trying to just help them feel better and find the right treatment and make them their favorite foods or do whatever you can to comfort them. And that's love. And that's just fine. So don't stop doing those things because, comforting our loved ones is, I think, what sets us apart from robots, right? This is something really, really good about us. But what we do in prayer is what can redefine the situation as we see it. So be the comforter, listen for how you can help. Sometimes it's giving somebody a blanket. Sometimes we don't know what the answer is about how to be a comforter, but what we're choosing to see them as in consciousness actually determines what we will claim within ourselves and what we will see in the dream as a whole. So it's really, really important that whomever you're seeing, let's say you have a next door neighbor that says, oh, I'm losing my home because I was laid off from my job and I haven't been able to find another job. I just don't know what to do. And maybe they are not one to pray or anything like that. You can just spend a little time, even 5 minutes, and just see them joyfully at God's table, see them blessed, see them having that which they think they don't have, see them having abundance, see them enjoying their freedom, see them truly being blessed with every single opportunity available to them. And then be sure to include yourself as well. It's a very important 5 minutes and even longer if you have time. But I've done this so many times and it's remarkable what can come from it. And all of a sudden, it might be the neighbor comes over and they say, you'll never guess what happened. My cousin's cousin heard that I was unemployed and they've been looking for someone. And then all of a sudden they have a job that came out of nowhere. And I'm not saying that's me. I'm saying the power of God is at work, and it can be at work through any one of us. So instead of trying to fill a gap that doesn't exist in truth, it's about closing that gap in your mind. And you can just take that moment to see everyone there at your table. If someone really believes that they are in a terrible situation, but let's say who they are, and you remember they're the holy child of God, that God created them to be happy, to have everything, that there's not even one thing that they need ask for because they've been given everything. And if you know that about them, would you worry? No, you wouldn't. Now you're seeing them in a situation because you used to believe they could be in a situation. And so now you're seeing it. It doesn't mean don't help or comfort or help them get to the next level of their own healing process. But this time you spend in prayer is remarkable. So the reason that you can have everything, even when other people don't, is because they already have it. And he's calling on you. He's calling on me to claim it for everyone, no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, no matter what you experience. Claim it, claim it, claim it. Because what we know is that we're always looking at the projection of our past thoughts and beliefs. And so when we're looking at a projection of our past thoughts and beliefs, of course, we're seeing people as lacking or deficient or miserable or sad or sick or broke or broken. Of course, we see these things because we used to believe that we were bodies that could be vulnerable and powerless and that we could have these conditions. So it's no surprise that we see what we do, but what we do with what we see is a choice. Sometimes it will feel like you're doing nothing at all. One of the quickest ways to affect your own life is to choose to see every single other person having their seat at the table, just taking time in prayer. If you see someone with a cane walking down the street, bless them with their perfection. You might still help them, hit the crosswalk button, or you might be helping them across the street. That's wonderful. Always being a part of the answer, right? What you can be doing while you're helping them across the street is remembering as you help them, thank you, God, that you did not create anyone to have discomfort or some kind of handicap or some kind of suffering. This is not your will, and it's not mine. And I choose to acknowledge the perfection in my holy brother, my holy sister. So as you're walking them across the street, you can be choosing to bless them with their holiness, with their happiness, with their right to God's seat at his table. It is their seat. It is that you could see them with their name on the seat. I want you to see them there with no gap in between and no longer being a table runner. So now what do we do? Because we still do help. When you see someone that seems to need help, the first thing is don't just react. Pause, ask God, is this what you would have me do? What I'm getting a sense of is I should do this or I should do that. So ask. You will be told how to be of service. Someone might call you and say, I need you to drive me to the airport. There's no one else. And the person that was supposed to take me, they got sick. They can't do it. You're the only one I know. And let's say that you are getting ready to go to your 7-year-old's piano recital. We get in these situations where there's two things and you're supposed to be in two places at the same time. And of course, you want to help the person and you want to make it to the recital, and you find yourself stuck in the middle. Don't be a table runner. It doesn't mean you automatically write off the person for the airport. It means pause, ask, dear God, I am seeing that I'm in this situation where I'm being asked to be here, where I'd like to be there. I know I cannot be in two places at the same time. So what's our goal? Is our goal the airport? Is our goal the recital? No, neither. Our goal is peace. Our goal is always peace. Because if our goal is to get to that recital, well, somebody's going to lose. And then you might even lose a friend. If you focus on the illusion and you're trying to get something in the illusion or decide you must have this or that, there's going to be win and loss. That's how the illusion is set up. It's set up, seek but do not find. It is set up so that someone will lose and someone else gains. So that's why we lay down both options. We choose peace and we say, God, my goal is peace. What would you have me do? How would you have me do it? What would you have me say and to whom? And you have to let go. And I know you probably want to get to that recital. I know I would for my 7-year-old. I would want to make that my priority, but you're going to have to actually lay down both if you're truly listening, because otherwise what you're doing is you're listening with agenda. If I say, God, tell me how I can get to my recital. Well, you'll probably make it to the recital, but somebody's going to lose, right? But what if we go to God instead and our goal is peace? With God's solutions, everybody wins. And I've seen this happen right in front of me. So let's say I go to God and I say, my goal is peace. Dear God, I'd really like to go to this recital, but I will serve you according to your will, not mine. What would you have me do? And then that's when that other person, the airport person, they might call and say, you know what, my brother just offered to take me. That's happened to me before. Or they might call and say, you know what, I just got a text on my phone and my flight's been canceled. So I guess I don't need to go. Something happens. It doesn't mean they will lose. It could be that they're not supposed to go on that flight, right? But just keep in mind that it's always the goal of peace. And from there, we listen for instructions. We are of service all the time. We are like walking angels in this world. I know you serve all the time as well, but we're not serving based on our spontaneous reaction to something. When you're feeling guided to do something or stand down on something, ask, God, is this what you want me to do? I'm listening. And if you're not sure, or you don't hear the answer that in a way that satisfies you, ask again. Somehow you're going to be answered. And it's usually an answer that comes not of you. Like somebody else will run in with the answer, or something will happen with the person that asked you. Now, all of a sudden, their situation changed. Answers from God are very unpredictable. And it makes you laugh because it's not something you could have even thought up on your own. God has unlimited opportunities to help us and to have anything happen, really. And what we know is what we've learned in the past. And that's really what we're drawing from. I call it the library of the past. And our library of the past is pretty limited, whatever we've experienced. But when we set our goal of peace, now we are listening without agenda. Again, let's say your friends invite you on a vacation and you haven't been on a vacation in 10 years. And you almost have enough money to go, but maybe not quite. And you're already thinking, well, I really shouldn't go. It's not practical. There's no time. I haven't taken a vacation anyway, so what's the point? You're already deciding against yourself. Let's say straight out of the gate. I've done that before. Pause. Ask God if you're supposed to go. What's your goal? The vacation? No. Your goal is peace. Dear God, my goal is peace. I've been invited on this vacation and I don't know what to do because I'd really like to go, but it's just not practical. There's not enough money. That's the way it looks to me, God. I'm going to just give it to you and let you decide for me about this. I did this exact thing where I wanted to go to a particular conference and I had no idea how I would go because it wasn't in the family budget. And it's funny because I didn't even know the name of the conference, but I felt really guided to go. And I've never done that before. I have to tell you, I have a very strong left brain, if you haven't figured that out already. And I like to know things. I like to, sort them out, have the facts. I like things to be concrete. And so for me to want to go to a conference in Hawaii on the Big Island, I'd never been there before, but I just felt very called to go. Somebody mentioned it, and I just thought, wow, I really want to go, even without knowing much about it. So I decided that I would put down a deposit for this conference. It was $100. I didn't have the money to go. This was, let's say, October. The conference was March. And so let's say in October, I put down this $100. And I thought, just in case something nice happens, I'll just keep that door open. And it was $100 non-refundable. I thought, okay, I'll just take a little ride here and see if I can put down this deposit. So I did. And then when it got closer, it was kind of like the end of January, and I had to come up with the rest of the conference money, plus the airfare, plus the hotel, plus spending money. And I didn't have any of it, not any of it. So I'm thinking about this, and I'm already deciding against myself. But think what I did. What I did enjoy is I put $100 down on something I thought would be fun. Watch out when you do that, because you're speaking God's language when you do this, right? So I put this money down, and now it's the end of January, and I knew I had to have the rest of the money in. I think it was by January 31st. And the conference fee was like $595. And then I still had to get airfare, hotel, all that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even have the other $495. And so I call the people, and I'm trying to explain over voicemail why I couldn't go. And I'm so sorry. And I know they held that spot for me, but I call them up and they're on vacation. They're not there to be able to take my call. And I thought, okay, well, I left them a message that I probably won't be able to come, and I could talk to them when they get back, but I couldn't really talk to them. I was blocked from talking. And in the meantime, a woman calls me that I've never met before. She's in Texas. I'm in California. She said, I heard that you're going to the conference, and I wondered if we could share a room. And I said, oh, I would have loved to, but, it just turned out it's just not really a good time for me to go. And she goes, well, you want to go, don't you? And I said, well, yeah, I absolutely want to go, but it's just not in the budget right now. Maybe I'll catch the next one. And she said, well, I want you to go. And I said, well, I know, and that's so nice of you, but I said, I really can't. And in fact, I already called them to put in a request for cancellation. And she said, well, I'll pay for your hotel. And I said, oh, and it was just so kind of her. I said, that's so kind of you. And she's a pediatrician in Texas, I'll pay for your hotel and we can share a room. And I said, and I just, all of a sudden, I'm like shrinking in my chair because I'm just feeling so small. Like, here's this person wanting to do all of this for me, and I couldn't even do the airfare or even finish paying for the conference. And I finally just said, I'm so sorry, but I said, I can't even do the airfare or the spending money. I can't even do the rest of the conference fee. And she said, you're going. She goes, I don't know how the rest of the conference fee is happening. That'll be worked out. She goes, but I have points I'm giving you for the airfare. And she goes, and you're staying in my room. And I thought it was kind of funny because she was really stern about it in a very loving way. That's a whole nother story. But so it turns out I do go. And then as soon as I hang up the phone, within a couple of days, another placement happened with the work I was doing at the time. And then I had the entrance fee to be able to pay for the conference. So the whole trip, after I paid for the conference fee, cost me $200. And that was my spending money while I was there for 10 days in Hawaii. So anyway, I did go, and it was absolutely life-changing. So be careful when you pick something out of joy without deciding against yourself. I really feel like you're reaching right into God's heart. And it's very likely that things are going to work out if you don't completely decide against yourself. Allow yourself to have good things happen. I had so many reasons why I shouldn't go, how it wasn't fair either to my family or to other people that should be there. I was so sure that it should happen to somebody else, not me. But somehow I came up with that $100 to put the bet down on myself for a change. And I guess I won that bet. But thank you, God. It's so funny how I call it squirting ketchup when you have a response that you have a little emotional response to something. Because I remember actually going through the airport, getting ready to go on that trip. And first of all, on the way to the airport, we left really early because I wanted to get there plenty of time. We ended up getting behind a car accident and it shut down the whole freeway. So we were sitting there for over an hour. Now the airport's only 14 miles from my house, but that hour really took a bite out of the time in terms of getting there. So I got there very late. I check in. There's a whole line of people. I would say 200 people in line at Orange County Airport. I have never seen so many people in the security line. And I'm standing in the security line and I'm looking at my watch because I think my flight left at 7:55 and I'm standing at the end of this line and it's 7:25. And I'm just standing there and I'm just starting to freak out. In those days, I didn't know how to pray. I didn't know how to listen. I was just thinking, oh my gosh, here's this person, they're doing all these nice things for me. And now I've gotten here late and now I can't go. And so and then there's a man standing next to me saying, there's no way you're going to make your flight. I mean, he was just right there to shoot me down and tell me it was going to be impossible for me to make my flight. And we're talking back and forth and I'm trying to tell him, yes, I will. Yes, I will. Well, eventually I just start being guided to make my way through the line and just ask people if I could go in front of them. And they were so gracious. It was like they just parted the water and they let me go in front of them. And then I go through the scanner and it's now 7:55. My plane is supposedly pulling away from the gate. I get up to the scanner and they stop me. And they say, you need to be searched. So they send me into a glass booth. And now I'm waiting there. I'm standing in a glass booth. It's 7:55. And I knew I was fighting myself. I knew it. I could just feel it. And I finally I stood in the glass booth and I said, I think my plane's leaving. And they said, wait a minute, you have to wait. And they just kept making me wait until they would come over and do what they needed to do. But as I stood in that glass booth, I just had this realization, Robin, this is you against you. Are you going to let yourself go on this trip or not? And I decided, you know what? I do want to let myself go on this trip, but if I don't go, that's okay too. Either way, I just don't want to make it a thing. It's just been a really rough morning. And if I don't go, I don't go. And if I do, I do, but I choose to let myself go. Then right away, somebody came over and, checked my person and let me out of the booth. And I go running up to the gate and there's a flight attendant there. And she said, are you Robin Duncan? And I said, yes. She said, will you please get on this plane? We can't leave until you get on the plane. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And, once they put your luggage on, they can't leave without you. I didn't know that. I did get on the plane and I did go, but I could feel the momentum. My ego was using against me my own decision that I didn't deserve this. I had guilt about going. All of this was early on where I had squeezed my own ketchup bottle. I was looking at that ketchup all over my life plane. And then things have gotten much better since then. I've tried to become much kinder to myself. I'll do anything for somebody else, but I wouldn't have always done something for myself or allowed myself to have something good happen. So I really encourage you to not have that inner battle that I did and to really let good things happen. If something good comes your way and it doesn't seem doable at all, don't shoot it down. Take it to God. Set your goal of peace. Listen. Say, God, if it is your will, I'd love to do this. I don't know how. I'm not sure how that would come to be. I've done this with so many things. Another one was there was a keyboard I wanted. It's a Korg Extreme 88 keyboard. It plays all these different instruments. It's $4,000. Again, it was a toy that I just really enjoyed because I wanted to make meditation music, basically. So I saw this keyboard and I decided I would just go into the music store and play around with this keyboard. And the guys there were really helpful, just teaching me how to use this thing. I went home just thinking, wow, it would be so great to have a keyboard like this. But it's $4,000, and when you have teenagers at home and dogs and responsibilities, a $4,000 keyboard isn't always in the mix. But what I did is I took a picture of it and I cleared out a space in my house and I just taped it on the wall. And I didn't let anything be put in that space. And I just taped it right there. And I didn't need to have it. I just made room for it in my mind. And it's okay if I didn't get it. But I thought, you know what? I'm going to imagine at least it's possible. So if it is possible, what would I do? Well, I'd probably make room for it in my house if I was going to think about having it. So that's what I did. A few months went by. And then on my birthday, well, actually right before my birthday, in my emails, because I had gone to look at that keyboard, I received a coupon that already brought the price down significantly, like 40%, brought the price way down. And then it also came with a free synthesizer and it came with a free bench and a free table to hold the keyboard. And I thought that was really interesting because all of these things came together and it was free. And then all of a sudden, something happened with my work where I had just enough to pay for this keyboard with all the discounts. So I go down to the store and they recognize me from before. And I said, I'm here to get my keyboard. I'm not sure how to set it up. And the two salespeople said, where do you live? Now I'm at that point in Anaheim Hills. They were in Brea, if anybody knows the difference. They're a little ways apart. It's not the easiest drive, right? The two of them said, we'll install it for you. You just tell us where to take it and we'll put it in and we'll set it up for you. So I got all these free things with it on my birthday. It just worked out that way. That wasn't something I arranged. And on my birthday, they bring in this keyboard. You know where they put it, right there where that picture was. And they set up the whole thing for me on their lunch hour, and they couldn't have been kinder. When you learn to think with God, he says everything comes at no cost. Well, at first, it seemed to come with some cost, always discounted. I find things now tend to come more with no cost as I go deeper into the journey. I think that's because early on, my mind couldn't accept getting something at no cost. And maybe you could call it no cost because the money would come in to pay for it that I didn't expect. So in a way, it was no cost to me. Notice that when something good is in your mind, and it's not about materialism, it's about joy, it's about fun, it's about play, it's about love. Try to not decide against it. If there's something you'd like to do, someplace you'd like to go, or someone you'd like to meet, hold a place in your mind for that possibility and ask yourself, what would I do if this thing could happen? And then start taking a few steps towards it, not needing it to happen, being okay if it doesn't. But, let's say you'd really like to see a particular bird. Maybe you're a bird watcher and you want to see this really rare bird and they never show up anywhere. Well, you're not going to see that in your bathroom, right? So you probably need to be outside, maybe on a little hike or someplace where you would see something like this. So put yourself in a place of receivership that makes sense for you. What you think, what you do, what you feel, and what you say, that all four of those need to be in the same direction. So think about, am I saying things like, I think this is possible? Am I thinking about it that way? Am I doing things that appears as if it is something that could happen? Allow yourself to let good things happen. Be kind to yourself. Let's say you don't like your wardrobe. You don't like it at all. There's nothing about it. Everything's old, tattered, tired, right? Then go through your closet. Keep the things you like best. Donate the others and make room in your closet for those new, beautiful clothes, not having an idea where they would come from. I know one time I did this because I'm such a little tomboy myself, but I love polo shirts. I just wear them a lot with shorts or whatever. And so I wanted some new polo shirts just out of, a happy thought in my mind. I thought, oh, I wish I could find some good polo shirts. And so I cleared out a place in my closet. And the guy I was dating at the time, he was about my size actually, but he was working out and his biceps had gotten bigger. And he said, I have all these polo shirts. And he goes, they're all brand new. And he goes, I can't wear them anymore. Do you want them? He didn't even know I was thinking about polo shirts. So all of a sudden I have all these polo shirts. They're brand new and they're perfect. They actually fit me perfectly. I still have some of those polo shirts. I'm just saying that notice the things that you think about with joy come to you very quickly because it's about joy. Keep it at a 10. God does 10s. He doesn't do 6s or -5s. Keep it at a 10, and you're going to find that those things tend to come much more quickly. But the things that you invest your fear in, or your worry, or your thoughts that you shouldn't have it, don't deserve to have it, aren't worthy of having it, those things take longer. So try to think about things just with joy, childlike enthusiasm. And then ask yourself, if this could happen, what would I do? Like, how would I prepare for that? And then just do your best at preparations, meaning you're just making room for it in your mind, in your heart, in your home. You don't have to do radical things, simple things. But what it does is it allows you to make room in your mind for not only the possibility, but now the manifestation. There's a beautiful Kincaid painting that I really liked called the Garden of Prayer. It has a nice gazebo. And I just thought it was so pretty. And I cut out a picture of it from a magazine because I thought it was pretty. It wasn't for any other purpose. And I put it on my refrigerator. Do you know I have 2 of them now? They're different frames. And so most people don't notice that it's actually the same painting in 2 different rooms. But I have 2 of them now, and both of them were gifts. I didn't pay for either one. I mean, it's a pretty big gift to give someone. Yes, I have 2 in my house. And I think it's just holding a happy, joyful thought in your mind. In chapter 30 of A Course in Miracles, he says, decide your perfect happy day and let me bring it to you. He says there's 2 things that he wants us to do. The first is to feel it as if it's done. How often do we do it? We usually don't do that. You might if you're good at manifesting, but if you don't know to do that, you may not think about that. You're mostly thinking about how to get it done. Feel it as if it's done. Number 2 is make no decision yourself about how it will come. In all of those cases, that was exactly what happened. I put that $100 down. I saw myself there. I felt how wonderful it would be. And it's funny because I had a little creation book at the time. So I would put little pictures of things, almost like a vision book. And on this one page, I put, that I'm in Hawaii, and I had pictures of Hawaii, and I had pictures of couples. And I don't know why I had pictures of couples. I think because I was part of a couple, I had pictures of couples and all the different pictures of things I might see while I'm there. I had dolphins and I had a boat, which we did all of these things. It's so funny because in my picture book, I realized that I had about 7 or 8 couples. And do you know, when I flew over to Hawaii for that trip, I sat next to a newlywed couple. On my way back, I sat next to another newlywed couple. Everywhere I went, there were couples. I went by myself this time, but it made me laugh because in my creation book, I had all these couples. So be careful what you ask for, right? But allow good things to happen. If something is out there that you would like to see happen, the biggest thing is don't decide against yourself and don't decide against someone else. Just leave that door open. Joyfully see it as done. at the table. It's your table. God gave you everything. So take a few minutes a day. 5 minutes is really enough. You can do more. It's better. But 5 minutes, and just imagine it being done. You don't have to give it all the specifics and, wallpaper color and all of that. Just, it's already done. And how happy you are, how joyful you are that it came together so quickly, so easily, and that people around you are celebrating. And get into the joy. Remember, number one, feel it as if it's done. Number two, make no decision yourself about how it will happen. So that means you can't spend your time trying to fill a gap that doesn't exist. Let's say I have a certain sickness and I'm trying to heal from this sickness. Well, my happy day would probably be to be free of this sickness. That's my happy day, right? So what do? Or maybe it's about someone else. Maybe your happy day is for them to be free of their sickness. Number one, are you doing it? Spend some time every day feeling it as if it's done. Be excited. Imagine what it would feel like. You woke up and it's just done and you're just so excited. And do it until you smile, until you can feel a little smile on your face. Number two, make no decision yourself about how this will happen. It's not up to you to listen for the perfect treatment. It's up to you to make no decision yourself about how this will happen. It's up to you to feel it as if it's done. And then I would add in, of course, know that you're worthy, know that you're loved, know that you have a right to a happy, fulfilling life. No matter what happened in the past, let the past go. So that's our message today, is you can have everything when other people don't, because they already have it. He's asking us to know this with him, and then he can show us that it's true. I would just add a little later after that, he showed me another vision, which I really love. I call it the leaky boat example. Again, it goes back to, you might be one of 10 people in your family that you just feel like you're trying to help them see something differently or get them on board with higher consciousness kinds of things or their spiritual growth. Let's say you are in a boat in the ocean. It's a leaky boat and it's sinking down in the ocean, and you're all kind of conflicted with each other, and everybody's worried, everybody's scared because it's dark and this boat is going down. And he showed me this vision where he said, imagine it's foggy and you're praying, everybody's praying, but they're really, really scared. And you're not as scared, but you're praying with them. And you're in the fog clears for just a few seconds, and you see a big boat that's right there ready to help you all. And they didn't see it because they were really busy, maybe arguing amongst themselves and being scared. And you're trying to tell them, no, we need to go to this boat. It's right there. It's here for us. And they're saying, you're crazy. You're nuts. You're different. We're not listening to you. We're going to figure out something else. The boat is still sinking. So he says, what you have to do ultimately is you're going to have to leave to go to the boat. And it's going to feel like you're leaving them, because there's going to be a point where you're kind of up to here in the water. This is all just kind of that little analogy to, how it feels when you're trying to get people to do something or react in some way and they're just not listening. So now you're all up to here in that water. And he goes, that you're going to need to go to that boat, and they're not going to go with you. He goes, so you go ahead and go to the boat. And then he asked me, what do you think will happen then with the others? And he showed me that what will happen is they'll be, getting up to their chin now. And when they start to really come to terms with they need to do something and they're not afraid of doing it, they're going to follow what I just did. And it will be me that has shown them their way out. So be aware that when you're making a choice for your own freedom, your own happiness, and you feel guided and it feels strong and it feels right, everyone's going to be blessed by it. That was his message. It may not look that way at first. Because I know in my family, I grew up definitely in a blue collar family. We always had food on the table. I always had shelter. I had wonderful parents, but we didn't have a lot. And it was a waste not, want not kind of family. And if you wanted a little more than what you absolutely needed, you were kind of seen as greedy. And it was a situation where having abundance was unfamiliar to me. So these were things I had to learn to think differently about and allow myself to take steps sometimes that seemed to feel like I was distancing from my loved ones. And yet at the same time, I was showing them their way out. And I think that's happened in so many ways, not only for me, but for so many of you. And when you make a decision that's happy for you, let's say you're being invited on some kind of a trip and you need that trip, you need that rest, but maybe you're thinking, well, I take care of my parents and they need me, and I can't leave and nobody else can do this. And when you take a trip that helps you rest, you're bringing peace to everyone, you're bringing joy to everyone, and God will help someone show up. I think, Jane, you mentioned that you had a situation where you were invited somewhere or you wanted to go somewhere, and then you thought, well, I can't go, I've got to take care of my husband, all these things. And then all of a sudden, I'd love for you to share that right now again, would be great.
My sister and I had planned a trip to Italy to visit the hometown where our grandfather came from, and we'd never been. And the Sunday night, we'd probably worked on it for about a year. And the Sunday night before we left, my husband fell and hurt himself pretty badly and couldn't be left alone. It was during the middle of the night, so we got him kind of settled and went back to sleep. And I woke up thinking, call my brother, who we wanted to come with us, but he didn't want to go. I don't know if I mentioned that. Anyway, I called him and I said, Danny, Ken just fell and I need you to come. Can you come? And he said, I'll be there tomorrow. He came. So the three of them actually, in spite of my husband being injured, had a lovely time together, and we got to go.
Just amazing. And I think you mentioned that they got to have a wonderful bonding experience.
Exactly. They had a great time together. Yeah, it was amazing.
Ego loves to put up smoke screens, like if you're trying to do something fun or good or happy, ego loves to steal the glow. So be aware of this. But when that happens, if it does, pause, go back to God. Should I go? Is this your will? What do you want me to do? I'll stay. If you want me to stay, I'll go. If you want me to go, it's entirely up to you, because that's how we know we will have a happy outcome. Years ago, after I had that revelation, actually, with, really it's important to choose peace for yourself because it brings peace to everyone. And to know that when you are struggling, when you're suffering, when you feel like you are sacrificing your peace, we need to pause and go to God. And I was teaching a class one time, and I don't know, Patty, you might even have been in this class, but there was someone in the class that she had been taking care of her mother. She had 5 siblings, and her mother was a real handful at the time for a number of reasons. And she really couldn't get away. And the siblings didn't want anything to do with helping her. So she was feeling pretty resentful and tired. And she had her own physical challenges as well. And so in this group, we just worked together as a group to forgive the siblings for playing roles of, showing us and mirroring the role that, you're not worthy of help and that life is unfair. And so she was a real good sport about looking at what her belief system must be to have family show up like that. We had fun just identifying some beliefs and then being willing to see all that differently and forgive everyone involved. And then, of course, the mind says, but there is no one else, right? Because I'm it. You might think, I'm it. But then we were willing to just say, no, with God, anything is possible. So we just prayed about it together as a group as we were getting ready to leave that day. And she felt better, but that was about it, And then the next day she came in with a big smile on her face. And she said, the magic words, which I've heard so many times in my life. You'll never guess what happened. And we said, what? And she said, she went home that night. She's taking care of her mother. And I think it was a cousin or an auntie of hers calls out of the blue, hadn't heard from her in years. And they said, do you know where's your mother live now? And she said, oh, she's here with me. And this relative said, I just miss her so much. We really were best friends, years ago. And I'm kind of lonely now. And, I'd just like to come and visit her. And, would it be okay if I just come and visit her? And they said, if you want to just take some time off or go do something, I could even come and stay with her. So she gets a phone call that night. That is not the only time I've seen that happen. That's happened with me too. Just so you know, I want to keep going on here tonight because I want to drive home for all of us. We are not the only answer in town. We have to stop being table runners. Of course, we help people. Every one of us do. But if you're doing it to your detriment, if you're doing it to where you are exhausted, if you're doing it to where it is costing you your peace, your well-being, your health, your finances, stop and be willing to give it to God. I'm going to give you two more quick ones. So one is that my parents had passed away, and there was a little couple that was very good friends of my parents my whole time growing up. So they were kind of like second parents. And now the wife had passed away and the gentleman was still left. His name's Dale, and now he's passed over as well. So our dear friend Dale, he was in this facility in Banning, California. Well, again, I was back in Anaheim Hills. It's about, hour and 15, hour and a half to get to Banning. I have all these kids. I have foster kids. I'm coming out of a divorce at this point. So I've got a lot of responsibilities on my shoulders. And all of a sudden, I'm aware that Dale is kind of out there by himself. And I felt like I was his only friend. And so I was trying to drive to Banning at least weekly or every other week, because I was just heartbroken that Dale would just sit there and his wife was so close to him. And then she had passed away and he was so depressed. And I was just trying to be his answer. And it was wearing me out. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I finally went to God and I said, God, I don't know what to do, but I can't keep doing this. It's financially hard. It's physically hard. I don't have this time because of all these kids. Like, I'm taking time away from the kids, and I can call him, of course, but I don't know what to do, but I'm giving this to you. Within the week, I received a phone call. Notice how that happens. It's not me running somebody down. I got a phone call, somebody I did not know. I at the time didn't even know how they got my phone number. And it was a woman. I can't remember her name now, but she said, do you know where Dale and Flo are these days? And I said, well, actually, yes. I said, but Flo has passed on, and we shared that moment. And she said, well, where is Dale? And I said, well, he's in a facility out in Banning. She said, Banning? She said, I'm in Beaumont. Well, Banning and Beaumont are right next to each other. She said, Dale's in Banning? And I said, yes. She said, well, I want to go see him, and she got the address. She said, I'll go see him every day. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I just started crying. God answered me. She went to see him every day, and she wanted to, and it was her joy to do it. Are you seeing a theme here? Right? So one other one was, I'm going to leave people out of it. Let's say a friend of mine was trying to help out another friend of ours. The other friend was in a really tough spot. So they took them into their home. And the idea was that the person coming into the home was going to be help to be a caretaker of another friend, so that it would all work out together. You help someone and they kind of help do some light housekeeping, a little caretaking. And ultimately, because the person moving into the home was really depressed at the time, they needed caretaking. And so the whole thing just went sideways really fast because the person that was supposed to be the caretaker ended up needing the caretaking. So now the person that invited them in had two people to take care of. We talked on the phone. We prayed about it because they said, I don't know what to do. I wasn't able to take care of this one person, and now I've got two. And so we prayed about it and we took it to God and we set our goal of peace. And we said, God, we don't know what to do with this. But what we do know is that suffering is not required, that there's no need for anyone to be worn out or overwhelmed, physically exhausted. Our goal is peace, but we don't know how to get there. Will you decide for us about all of this? And then we closed our prayer. And the next morning, the person that had moved in got a phone call from another friend. And they went over to that friend's house and they never came back because that friend had offered them a job that they wanted. It was done. It was done within like 12 hours. And it was all happy and good. There was no hostility, no chaos. Just all of a sudden that person got up and was offered a position that they felt valued and excited, and it was done. Look how quickly it happens. It wasn't you and me trying to figure it out or making the right phone calls. It's always somebody else calling in. I want you to really hear that. A lot of people, I think, don't really think there is a God, or if there is, God's not talking or answering. You know there's a God because when these things happen, it's not of you. You're going to find that the rescue that you experience, it really has very little to do with you or your talent, your ability, your best thinking. When you are in a challenging situation, pause, take it to God. Set your goal of peace, not your goal of fixing an illusion with an illusion. Your goal is peace. Let God know you don't know how to get there, but you're asking from that highest place to be shown how things need to come together so that peace can be accomplished. And in that way, you're really opening your mind to unlimited opportunities that can happen in your favor and in everyone's favor. But there's no need to suffer. There's no need to sacrifice ever, ever, ever. As you make a choice for peace for you, you're making a choice for peace for everyone. Everyone's going to be blessed by it. You see, in all those situations, like the lady that visited Dale, she wanted company. She wanted companionship. She got it. And he got companionship. And I got a much needed break from what I was doing. The other situation, the person got called away to a job that they really wanted and were excited about. And the other person got the relief that they needed. Every time, everyone gets blessed by it. So if you find yourself in the leaky boat and you're trying to talk people into something or get them to see something differently and they just won't do it, and you're feeling like everybody's asleep, see them at your table. See them complete, whole, blessed, innocent, rich beyond measure, filled and full of the light of the Holy Spirit, absolutely blessed by God, the Creator. Take a moment each day to see them there with you, and then follow what is peaceful and compelling for you. We're all one. And when you're following what is peaceful and compelling for you, everyone is going to be blessed by it. That's not the same as greed or only looking out for yourself, or, well, I want this job and I don't care what happens to that person. It's not about that. It's about real peace. You're asking for a peaceful outcome for everyone involved. Everyone must be included. You don't want to exclude anyone from that formula of peace. And peace you will have. Sometimes we're still doing a lot of things, right? Doing a lot of things, and it feels like it doesn't stop. It's an endless list. Spend time each day seeing yourself free of the endless list. If you are to help in a situation, you will know it'll feel very peaceful. It'll even feel joyful. Like Jane's brother that hopped in, he's like, I'll be there tomorrow. You could tell it was his joy to do that. He was happy to step in and take care of that. Right, Jane? So like when somebody is supposed to take a certain role, you'll see that they do it with peace and with a lot of times to happiness in their heart. And that's how you know if it's not peaceful, it's not your train. If it's not peaceful, it's not your train. Don't step on the train before you pray and ask if you're supposed to be on that train. Give yourself room for God to show you a different outcome, because a lot of times our mind says, but there isn't one. There's nothing that can be done. I'm the only person. I felt like that so many times. And it's so important to just lay that down and really witness the truth about the other person. Seeing them at the table is really what we'll be spending the next 2 weeks about, weeks 8 and 9. If you can just do that, you will never leave the end zone of truth, because no matter what happens in front of you, you see them camped at that table and they have everything with nothing missing, and they are happy and they are blessed and they are loved and they are safe. I think this is really what happened with Jesus and his healing, that when people would come to him blind or dead, right? They'd come to him in different ways where he knew their perfection. He knew they could not be altered. And in his certainty, they would heal. Because if we are the dreamers of our dream, he had no use for them showing up less than their perfect self. And so we tend to try to solve the imperfection instead of choosing to see perfection in the midst of the imperfection. We do see it. We see lack. We see suffering. We see loneliness. We see deprivation. We see all of these things. When you see it and you start to feel what you feel in response, pause and just take a moment to see them at God's table, wholly blessed, wholly perfect, wholly loved, access to everything. And there's not one thing they're missing. And they have every single thing they could possibly want or need in abundance. And as you do this, I believe it is one of the highest forms of prayer, is to see them completely whole, a willingness. And then watch what happens for them. Because if you are the dreamer of your dream, then you're no longer tolerating imperfection as normal. That's not really the truth. And so as we, as the dreamer, have no use for that anymore, and we're just choosing the truth anyway, no matter what we see, you're going to see things wrap up very quickly around you. And it's miraculous. Could you spend a little time each day just imagining you are absolutely free? Free to do whatever you want. I think that's just a happy thought for anybody. Free to go where you want, do what you want, wherever you want, with whom you want, like just freedom, just happy and free. I can tell when I'm really happy because I just sing. I sit at my desk singing. I sing all over the place while I'm driving. And it's funny. I go, oh, I must be pretty happy because I'm just like singing all the time right now. So, but you don't have to define it. It's about happy. It's not about stuff. Imagine yourself happy and free. Whatever that would look like, give it your best shot. You don't have to define it. It's about feeling it as if it's done. But I think it's amazing to have that kind of remarkable life where you could truly imagine that kind of freedom. But I think imagining that you're absolutely free of limitation, at least even there's no sickness, you feel good. If you'd like to go do something, you can. If you like to pay for something, there's plenty of surplus. Don't overcomplicate it. Just for a few minutes, feel that as if it's done. You're now playing the role of somebody that's happy and free. What do they feel like? And just try to bring it in that way. Try to not let your mind tell you that you don't know, because you do. You are actually created happy and free. You don't remember because we've been unhappy and not free for so long. But just how cool that would be, just to get up in the morning and know that you're free and that you don't answer to anyone in terms of like you're not controlled. You're not obligated, that what you do is out of joy, out of peace, out of divine guidance. Sit up in your bed and be conscious about it, and just imagine that until you have just a nice, warm, happy feeling, and then go about your day. And you're doing exactly what he's asking you to do. You say, thank you, God, for showing me how all that's possible. Don't know that much about happy and free, but I'd like to know a lot more. You're saying that's my true self. So bring it on. I'm just going to hold a place and make a reservation for that. Must feel a little bit like this or that. And okay, now I'm ready to go have breakfast. And see that for others. Like your ego is very likely to rush in and show you somebody that is absolutely not happy and absolutely not free. So pause and bless them with their freedom. Just like, okay, you are not the shabby version I have made or the confined hostage that I have made in my mind. You are happy and free. And I just take this moment to bless you with your happiness, your abundance, and your freedom. And I also accept that for myself. You're letting your higher consciousness guide that process and what it looks like. And then you've got a real action-packed combo that leads to great things. If you're feeling sick, then give a few minutes every day, imagining being free of that sickness. And thank you, God, about this total freedom you say is mine. And what would I do if I wasn't sick? Well, maybe I would be in a dance class because maybe I used to dance, or maybe I used to ice skate. I'd go take ice skating lessons, or maybe I used to play guitar and I haven't been able to because I have carpal tunnel. So you might imagine yourself playing guitar. So it's not about guitar lessons. It's about negating the part of your mind that says you can't have it, and you put it back. You say, yes, I can. And just, we're not saying I have to have guitar lessons or be able to play the guitar. It's holding a place in your mind to know that that is possible among everything else too. So if your mind says you can't, then you put it back and say, yes, I can, and see yourself doing it joyfully, and then go make breakfast. I'll see you absolutely free of this delay, free of this mediocre, high end of mediocre experience. I want to see it just like way up, a 10 plus happy life, and that you would know what it is. And you would one day look at me and go, I know what happy is. Well, today we're just going to stop being table runners. And dear God, to the degree that we feel like we are trying to fill the gap for another person, for ourselves, we are always happy to be of service according to your will. We are happy to be your instruments of peace, your messengers of love. And what we are learning is that we do not know the best way to go about that. And if we are feeling overwhelmed, tired, exhausted, run down, or maybe it's affecting us financially or taking our health away or costing us in some other area of our life, we know that we are being a table runner. And what you're asking us to do is spend time in our seat, got our name on our chair, our seat at your table, and to imagine we have access to absolutely everything, that you gave us everything. And we have the honor of being at your table, and to include every other person that we are seeing as imperfect in some way, see them at that table with us. And we're just going to give a little time to that each day, imagining being happy, free, abundant, and blessed, and to know the perfection of all that you have given, and to be grateful in advance. Thank you in advance for all that you have given. We claim it now. Thank you, God, that if there's any place in our mind where we are deciding against ourselves or our own perfection or someone else's, that you would heal that place in our mind. If there's anything that has happened in the past that has broken our hearts or made us feel betrayed or robbed or unfairly treated or unappreciated, unsupported, that we would take this moment to forgive those involved, because we understand now that they're playing roles to mirror our unhealed belief system. And we forgive ourselves, of course, but they were showing us what needed to be healed. They weren't causing it. And today we ask that all of it be healed, that we would know the perfection that you created within us. We are not our shabby self that we have made, or the other figures in our dream, they are not shabby either. We are as you created us. We are eternal spirit. We are one with you. We are free of all limits. We are blessed. We are healed. We are happy. We are whole. We are free. And today we are claiming this together. And we choose to see this in everyone, everywhere, no matter what our eyes report. We choose to acknowledge only the truth of those around us as much as we can. And we call on the Holy Spirit to decide for us about all the details and how we will be guided to help if help is needed, and that we will make no decisions against ourselves or anyone else. Thank you, God, for your guidance, for showing us only happy situations, and for guiding us back to all that is real, true, happy, and blessed. We are the Holy Son of God, free of all limits, and it's good to be us. May your will be done forever and ever. Amen. Thank you all.